Circle of Friends in Action is a relatively new nonprofit. We were incorporated in January of 2012, and I'm really excited and grateful that we have the opportunity to be here today to let you know what we've done over this past year. I think we've accomplished quite a bit. Before I talk about, I wanted to share a little bit of Carolyn's story, and then I'd like to talk to you about how Circle of Friends in Action came to be and let you know what our mission, specific mission is. So Circle of Friends in Action was founded by Carolyn, who grew up in extreme poverty in the Rubangi village in Uganda. Against great odds, she was able to obtain an education, go to college, and then move to the United States to pursue a degree in finance. But as you'll hear from Carolyn this morning, and she'll be talking to you in a few minutes, her story is not the story of most of the children in Rubangi village today. These children live in extreme poverty, are hungry, often do not have clothes, cannot see a doctor when they're sick, and they really lack life's basic necessities. Well, the children in Rubangi have a great desire to learn. Sadly, many of the families in Rubangi cannot afford to send their children to school. Uganda, unlike the United States, doesn't have a publicly funded elementary school system. And then for the families that can afford to send their children to school, many of the schools lack basic academic resources. So the schools don't have textbooks, don't have a curriculum. And so even if the child's lucky enough to go to school, oftentimes they really can't obtain an education that's going to enable them to succeed in life. Carolyn beat the odds, and you'll hear from her how she was able to obtain an education. But when she moved here, she couldn't forget the children that she left behind. And when she came to the United States, she began to send money back to her village, and her story is just incredibly inspiring. But ultimately, she herself paid for about 20 children to go through school and enabling even some of these children to go to college. But Carolyn really knew that she needed the help of more people in our community to truly make a difference. And her dream was to start Circle of Friends in Action to really make a true, greater impact on these children's lives. As the name implies, Circle of Friends in Action is a group of friends who have come together to help Carolyn realize her dream, which is to transform the lives of the children at St. Jude's Primary School, which is a school in Rubangi Village, grades 1st through 7th. Our mission in Kofia is really twofold, and I think it's actually pretty similar to Rotary's mission. Rotary's mission, as I understand it, is to bring together people from the business community to really engage in service and make a difference in this world. In Kofia, I think we're really aligned with what you're doing, but instead of focusing on the business community, we're focusing on our local schools and attempting to mobilize our children here to engage in service projects, to become active, to support the children living in Africa and Uganda. So our mission statement, I think, captures this twofold mission. And our mission statement is officially, we transform the lives of the children at St. Jude's Primary School in Rubangi, Uganda, by enriching their educational experience while inspiring children in our local schools to be of service and teaching all children that they are capable of making a difference in the lives of others. Carolyn is going to be talking to you about her experiences growing up in Uganda and why these children really desperately need the help of our community. And then I'd like to talk to you at the end of the presentation just about what our programs are and some of our future goals and objectives.
Good morning.
Good morning.
I am delighted to be here and deeply honored to spend this morning with you. 4 siblings and I grew up in a small village called Rubangi Village, and that's actually the home I grew up in. That was my grandfather's house. We were raised by a single mother who was uneducated and we lived in extreme poverty. We lacked food, we lacked safe water. It was normal for us in our household to go hungry a couple of days a week or lay sick for a couple of days without medicine. That picture reminds me of being a kid, say about 8 years old, and would sit in circles with friends and dream, and we had our little dreams to become teachers and become doctors and become nurses. That somehow we knew that wasn't what was carved out for us. So once a year, in Uganda at the time there was only one college, Makerere University. And in the village once a year, probably one person or two people would graduate from this university. So on graduation day, they would come dressed in this gown, and I and friends of mine would stand by the roadside and just watch. And we were in awe and how we envied the gown, and we wanted it so bad for ourselves. And from watching these people graduate, and everybody in the village would talk about, oh my goodness, they read, and my God, they have read some books, and everybody's following them around. And I developed a burning desire for education. I got used to the hunger, I got used to the no medicine, I got used to the bad water, but I just couldn't get used to the fact that I couldn't wear that gown someday. So I went on a mission. And I knew well that in the schools in the village wouldn't get me to the gown. That there was this word going around the village: if you went to the city and studied in the city school, you'd make it to college. And so I went on a mission to nag my mother, and I nagged her and nagged her, and I said, Mom, I have to go to school, and I'm not going to school in the village school, I'm going to school in the city. And I remember she would tell me, no, dear, the city is not for us. And I said, no, and nagged her for years, about 2 years or so. And then eventually she caved in, and we moved to the city, so at least I could be closer to educational opportunities. But oh my goodness, when we got there, it was worse off being in the city than in the village. Because in the city, you needed work, you needed a paycheck, you needed an income, and my mom didn't have the job skills to pull in the money we needed for me to go to the good school that was close to me. And so I and my siblings realized we had to help out. We were living in a slum, and we started to do whatever odd jobs we'd find. I remember my sister and I starting a fruit stand that was very similar to that, probably even worse, that looks a little better than what we had. Started a fruit stand, and we would, I remember, collect Coca-Cola bottles and take them to the Coca-Cola plant to recycle for refund money. But all of that wasn't enough. It just wasn't enough to get us to school. So one time I just said, Mom, we'll never make enough money to go to school, but I'm going. Tomorrow we are going to the school, and you're going to talk to the principal, and I'm starting school. And she thought I was the craziest little kid ever. But anyway, I think she said, okay, yes, we'll go, just so she could take me there so I could hear for myself from the principal that I couldn't go to the school. I picked out my school that I wanted to go to. We went over there, and my mom dropped on her knees, I remember, and she was crying, and she said to the principal, I don't know what to do with her. You get her in, but I don't have the money, but I promise you, I'll pay, because in Uganda, like Amanda said earlier, there are no social services or financial aid or stuff like that, so you either have money to pay for stuff or you don't, and of course we didn't have. And that's the school that I went to. It's called Buganda Road Primary School, and I remember I was walking up those stairs that day, and my mom dropping to her knees and begging, and anyway, the principal let me into the school, but I think he thought, well, they're not going to be able to afford it, I'll throw her out eventually. He didn't know what he was messing with, it was me. So he let me in, I started to go to that school, and in the 5th grade. I started off in the 5th grade, and of course my mom could pay, $10 here and $20 there, and I would get kicked out, go home, stay for 3 weeks, work, find another $10, bring it back. And that's how I went to school, finished elementary school here in Uganda Road, moved on to high school, and eventually to college. And education was the key to me escaping poverty. So I eventually moved, an opportunity opened up for me to move to the United States, and I found success in the business, in the banking industry in the US. I worked for Washington Mutual till its collapse in 2009. But while in the US, I was miles away from home, but home was not miles away from me. I oftentimes thought about the kids back in the village. Here I was in a place full of opportunity. I had arrived, I was excited, but still I was sad for all my friends in the village and their families that hadn't made it to the level that I had made it. And so once a week or so, I'd call Mom and would have a conversation, and she'd tell me about the village. And I remember one of our conversations, she talked about a little boy called Charles. And she said, oh my goodness, Carolyn, I was at the village today and there was all this drama in the village. And I said, what was going on? And she said, there was this little boy in the village that was going to hang himself. He was found in the bushes just about to hang himself on a tree because he couldn't go to school. He had gone through elementary school up to the 7th grade, and then he was ready to go to high school, but his parents didn't have money to move him to high school. They had sold everything, goats and cows and chickens, everything they owned, to put him through elementary school. And for high school, they just couldn't do it. And they say to him, you know what, Charles, we can't. And that boy was going to hang himself. And I say to Mom, no, Mom, no, Mom. I'm sending you money, you're finding Charles, and we are taking him to school. So remember we mentioned that the schools in the village are so poor and lack resources to prepare children for true success. So what it meant is that we had to move Charles from the village to get him to a good high school in the city. And so Charles moved and he started to stay with Mom. And then from Charles came Connie, and then came David, and then came Scovia, and all these kids. And before you know it, I had about 20 kids that were going to school in the city, and some were staying with Mom, and others with my brothers who I had also put through school and, you know, were now successful, had successful careers in the city. And so after 20 kids, I kind of thought, oh my goodness, you know what? When I moved to the United States, my big desire and deep desire was to pull my family out of poverty and pull my mom out of poverty because I hated to see her suffer when we were growing up. So I had accomplished that. And then through Charles, my deep desire to change my family's life grew into a desire to change my entire community at Rubongi Village. And so I started to think, oh my goodness, I can't, to change a community, I'd have to educate many more kids, more than 20. But where am I going to put 500 kids? Soon my mom will run out of space, my brothers will run out of space. You know, then I started to go, okay, I think I need to bring the school to the village as opposed to taking the kids out to the city. And so then the question became, okay, should I build a school from scratch? Or should I take an existing school in the village and transform it? And I thought, oh, well, let's see. I think more cost effective to take a school that is existing and transform it. So when WAMU fell apart in 2009, I took a trip. I was free. I had time to do these things. And so I took a trip back to the village to identify a school that we would work with and transform. And so I identified St. Jude School. That's a little boy at St. Jude School. So St. Jude School in Rubongi Village has about 500 little boys and girls that yearn for an education. Oh my goodness, these kids walk miles, barefooted. They come to school, they're hungry, just as you see that little boy there. The time I was there, the Kofia board sponsored a lunch. And on that day, when that picture was taken, we sponsored a lunch, and the kids were so excited about having a school lunch because most of them go hungry. And I remember that little boy was given his plate of food, and he just started to walk away from school, heading home. And so I ran after him and I said, "Aren't you going to stay and have food with us?" And he said, "No." He covered his plate with a plastic bag to walk miles back home to share his one plate of food with his brothers and sisters. Yes. And so these children, these 500 boys and girls, lived the life that I led growing up. No water, no food. Their school lacks resources to lead them to the kind of success that they are dreaming about. Children are taught in overcrowded classrooms. There are about an average of 75 children per classroom. Some of them sit on the floor because the desks are not enough. They are taught by underqualified teachers and motivated teachers because the teachers only make $50 a month. And sometimes they are not paid and they have families to take care of, so teachers don't show up. Textbooks and basic school supplies are unimaginable luxury for these children. Sanitation facilities are extremely poor. And most of all, they never pass the high school entry exam. So when I came back from Uganda, I started Circle Friends in Action with my friends here and 8 other women who are not here today. And our goal is to get these 500 children to pass the high school entry exam, go into high school and eventually make it to college and break the cycle of poverty. So then one question sometimes people ask me is, why should you care? Why should I care about children that are thousands of miles away? And I'll give 2 reasons. One of them is generational poverty. I don't know if you've heard of generational poverty. It's a different kind of poverty. It's a poverty passed on and passed on from generation to generation. These children, through no fault of their own, absolutely no fault of their own, find themselves born in this thing called poverty, a life of hardship, broken dreams, and desperation. Impoverished children experience a range of disadvantages. If it's not tuition they don't have, it is food they don't have, and then before you know it, they are sick, but they can't go to the doctor. Their neighbor can't help because the neighbor is poor, the aunt can't help because the aunt is poor, the uncle can't. And so they are surrounded, their social network is just poor people who can't help each other. And generational poverty is a strong force. It's powerful. When it strikes, it means insecurity, it means hopelessness, it means powerlessness. I tend to think of it as a chain link fence, a huge chain link fence that just comes and shoves you to the margins of society. And there you are, pushed to the sidelines of society, and you live your life watching your life go by. That's what it does. That's what it does to children. And generational poverty is not just about not having things. It's not romantic at all. It's intense suffering. It's not noble. It's a way of living and thinking, and it inhibits children from achieving their full potential. That's one reason why we should care, because it could be me, it could be you. It's just a flip of the coin that they're the ones who find themselves born in this situation. The other reason why we should care is because we are part of a global citizenship movement, recognizing the importance of addressing poverty through education. Just a small video here. Having a bit of technical issues here.
visit areas ravaged by war and disaster, the plea of survivors is the same. Education first. I too know education poverty firsthand. When I was growing up, my country had been devastated by war. Education was the key to helping us realize our potential. Education helps to re-establish normality for traumatized children. Education opens doors to the job market. It improves maternal health and environmental stewardship. It promotes tolerance and mutual understanding. There is an urgent need for greater investment in education. That is why I have launched the Education First initiative. It has 3 priorities. First, putting every child in school. Second, improving the quality of learning. Third, fostering global citizenship. I call on people everywhere to join this initiative and work with the United Nations to make it a success. We cannot afford to waste the talents of a generation. Together, we can empower individuals to transform our world.
And indeed, we can't afford to waste the talents of a generation. A little update on Charles. Remember I told you that boy that was going to hang himself, that moved to the city to go to school. He'll be graduating this year from the Kampala International University with a bachelor's degree in computer science. As the United Nations Secretary General stated, education opened doors to the job market, and that's exactly what it's done for Charles. It's exactly what it did for me and what it can do for the children in Rubongi Village. We owe it as a community, as a global citizenship. We owe it to every child, regardless of where they are born, to unleash their potential. They are all of equal worth. They deserve an equal chance. Thank you so much.
I am re-inspired every time I hear Carolyn's story. I just think it's amazing. So I don't think that there's any kind of dispute that these children really need our help. I guess what I really wanted to communicate to you is it's not only the children in Uganda that we're helping, we're trying to help the children here. And we're trying to help them learn how to engage in public service, become leaders, and really develop the values that Rotary stands for. And so our focus again is to mobilize children in Tacoma and the local schools in Tacoma to become inspired to donate school supplies, to raise money, and engage in programs that are really going to benefit this small school in Rubongi. And it's one local community helping one village in Africa. And we can't certainly solve the problems of all the children living in poverty, but we can do our part. And so we feel that we can target this one school, and then we can be part of, in that way, this global movement to support education that you heard the UN Secretary General talk about in the video. So I wanted to briefly, before we end today, let you know about some of the programs that we're having the children in Tacoma be involved in. The first one is really exciting because it is really what creates a personal connection. So we have what's a Copia Pen Pal program, and right now we have that at St. Pat's School, we have that at Concordia Lutheran School, and we'll be starting that at Annie Wright, and we hope to move into the public schools with Lowell and some other elementary schools. But this is a program that takes place in the classroom, and the children get a pen pal in Rubongi, and you'll see the pictures of their pen pals. And what the children do is they write a letter, and the children here tell about their lives and they ask questions. And then they send their photo, and then they receive letters back from the children in Rubongi. And I have young children and who participate in this program, and it's just really amazing what this will do to inspire you. So you can see these children and how excited they are. And once they have a personal connection with the child, they learn so much. My son, his pen pal wrote to him to explain that he lived in Rubongi, that his mother had died of AIDS and that his father was sick and he was the caretaker. It was clear from the letter that their family was very poor, and it really impacted my son in a way that I haven't seen him really be impacted before. So he became very empathetic and thought how scary that would be to lose your parents. But then the letter went on to talk about how this young boy loved soccer and was glad to have a friend in the United States. And my son loves soccer. And so he learned not only that we're in different circumstances, but that we are really more alike than different. And then he wanted to give his allowance to this young boy or to the school. So I really think that this program is exciting because, again, it creates a personal connection. What we've seen happen is a lot of these kids who get their pen pal letters, all of a sudden they want to donate the money they've received from their birthday. They want to bring in used school supplies. So it's really been motivating and really exciting to see the kids inspired. Another program we have is a collection drive program. And this is also in the schools. We've had Stadium High School be involved in this program. This is at St. Pat's, children at St. Pat's. Lowell's been involved, Concordia Lutheran's been involved. We've had several schools. And what this program is about is having people donate school supplies, computers, books, curriculum, which we have now gathered about 40,000 pounds of items to ship to Rebongi. And that we're looking right now at a shipping container, so it's going to involve shipping costs. And we're hoping to be able to find some sort of a program that will enable us as a nonprofit to ship as least expensive as we can. But really, once that container arrives there, and again, this is all items that have been donated either by children or by schools. The amount of things contained in this container will really transform St. Jude's School. Another one of our programs is the uniform program. As Carolyn mentioned, most of these children do not have clothing. They certainly do not have money to afford the school uniform. It only costs $14 to clothe a child. So one of our programs is providing new uniforms to these children. And again, we've utilized the schools to do this. So, for example, at St. Pat's, they have what's called a free dress day. The children, instead of wearing their uniforms to St. Pat's, could donate money and wear their casual clothes. And we've done this at other schools as well, having fundraisers to support the uniform program. And so far, we've been able to provide 250 of the children at St. Jude's with new clothing, which has been great. And our goal is to get all of these children, all 500 of them, clothed by year end. Another program we have is the meal program. As Carolyn mentioned, many of these children are hungry. When Carolyn spent time in Rebongi and focusing on St. Jude, she really realized that we can't just provide these kids with books, that we have to have a holistic approach because they can't learn if they're not fed. And so we've started a meal program where we provide a meal once a week. But again, we're a new nonprofit. It's only been a year now, and our goal is that we would really like to be at the point where we're providing a meal for these kids every day, so they really can learn. And they're just so thankful. It's just so nice to see how excited they are, as Carolyn mentioned, when they know that people here care and want to see them fed and clothed. The final program I want to talk about is we have an academic enrichment program. So Carolyn mentioned in Uganda, in order to go on to high school, you have to pass a pretty rigorous 7th grade high school entrance exam. And so our focus in transforming the school is we really want to see an improvement in the amount of kids who are able to pass that exam and go on to high school. So what we've done so far is we've focused on the 7th grade. We've sent, as you see here, textbooks, school supplies. We provided a meal on exam day in the hope to really help those kids succeed on that test. But our goal really is to focus on each individual grade, so grades 1st through 7th, and we would like to transform the classroom. So what we're first doing is we have volunteer teachers here in Tacoma that are on a subcommittee of our board that are personally spending their time to develop a curriculum for the 1st and 2nd grade that we will then send to the teachers. But that will include teaching materials, math assignments, reading projects, even a music program. So we'd like to, our goal is to transform, like I said, each class in grades 1 through 7. So that's just a quick summary of our programs. We have a brochure that we've given to everyone, and On the back of this brochure, it talks about if you're interested in becoming involved and ways that you can help. So the first thing is that if you know of a school that would like to participate in our program, we would love to hear from you. If you have a child or a grandchild at a local school that you think might be interested in becoming involved, that would be wonderful. Right now, because we're new, we're really just trying to spread the word about our organization and what we're doing. So another way to really help us would be if you have a place of business that you have speakers come to. Carolyn would love to come and speak to your place of business just about what we're doing. Another thing is that we're looking for connections with the community in Tacoma for anyone who wants to help in any way. We don't have a functioning website yet. We have a Facebook. We are looking for help, again, with shipping that container. So that's just something that we're kind of putting out to the community. We found this community to be so supportive, and so if there's anybody that has the ability to help us with that, that would be wonderful. We also accept donations to our organization and to all of the programs that I've mentioned, but it's just shockingly inexpensive to make a difference. And I think the thing that's unique about our organization is there's this connection where Carolyn's mother and family is there, and so there's a real ability to safely transfer funds, and we know those funds are going to the kids who need them. As I mentioned, it costs $14 to clothe a child. It costs $60 to put a child through school for a year. It costs 30 cents to provide a meal for a child a day. So $150 will feed the whole school in one day. So we can make a lot of change with actually not a lot of money. So it's just very exciting, and we're really, really inspired. We love seeing our children so excited, and we're just really grateful to be here today and let you know what we've been doing and have you listen to Carolyn. Thank you.
What a well-organized organization and terrific leadership. So thank you very much.